Hey everyone, welcome back to Behind the Investigations. I'm thrilled to have you with me today. The first two episodes have been a big hit, and I can't thank all of you enough for watching and sending me your kind words and encouragement. It truly means a lot to me, so thank you. Okay, so in this gripping episode, we're going to delve into a chilling cold case homicide that unfolded in the heart of Yellowstone County back in 1977. This case has puzzled investigators for decades, leaving unanswered questions and haunting the families affected by this murder. Cold cases are some of the most intriguing mysteries, and they often reveal the darker side of human nature, the complexities of law enforcement, and the resilience of those seeking justice. Today, we'll explore the details surrounding this unsolved crime, from the initial investigation to the theories that have emerged over the years. As we unpack this story, we'll learn more about the victim and attempt to shed light on what really happened that fateful day. So grab a cup of coffee or your favorite drink, sit back, and let's get started on today's episode of Behind the Investigation. And trust me, you won't want to miss this journey into the unknown. Yellowstone County is located in the state of Montana. It has a rich history of breathtaking natural beauty. Unfortunately, it also has the setting of a cold case homicide that has remained unsolved for years. This case continues to haunt both the local community and the investigators who are determined to find justice for the victim. Our story begins with the victim, whose name was Ruth Ballou. Ruth was a 21-year-old prostitute who lived in Yellowstone County. She was known for her kind personality and love of children. She graduated from West High in 1974. However, just 3 years later, her life was tragically cut short when she was brutally murdered. In February of 1977, Ruth's life came to a horrific end. The details of the crime are gruesome and shocking. Ruth had been shot multiple times. The sheriff's office did not want to release how many times she had been shot or what caliber was used. That is common for detectives to want to keep some details confidential because only the killer would know them. This helps them when they interview possible suspects, and trust me, you would be surprised how many false confessions they receive in cases like this. Her fully clothed body was found around 5:45 p.m. on Saturday in a muddy, remote spot near the city landfill. Detectives sent her remains to the Montana State Crime Lab for an autopsy. And according to detectives, the results of the autopsy showed that at the time of her death, she did not appear to have been sexually assaulted, and she died from several gunshot wounds. Despite the initial investigation, the case went cold, leaving the community in fear and the victim's family desperate for answers. Over the years, law enforcement agencies and dedicated detectives have tirelessly worked on this case. They have followed leads, interviewed witnesses, and utilized advanced forensic techniques. But the perpetrator remains at large. The investigation has been challenging, with many twists and turns along the way. The fact that she was a young prostitute means the killer may or may not have been one of her customers. Initial investigations led detectives to several potential leads. Witnesses reported seeing unfamiliar vehicles in the area around the time of Ruth's murder. However, these leads did not yield conclusive results. Despite extensive investigations and efforts by law enforcement, Ruth's case remains unsolved to this day. It serves as a reminder to the countless families who are still waiting for justice for their loved ones. Ruth's story serves as a strong reminder of the challenges that people on the fringes of society often face. Let's dive in a little deeper into the life and the events that led to her tragic end. Ruth Ballou was described in an article in the Billings Gazette in April of 1977 as an invisible girl, a young woman who grew up largely unnoticed by those around her. Despite the challenges she faced, Ruth had a kind heart and a very soft spot for children. Those who knew her remembered her as someone who longed for connection and acceptance. She was the only girl in her family and had 3 brothers. She tried to fit in at school. She wore her hair long and straight, which was the style back in 1974, and her glasses were plastic cat-style frames. She had been a diabetic since she was 7, and about a year before her death, she spent a week in the hospital due to a diabetic attack. She also had cerebral palsy, which left her right arm partially paralyzed. Around her senior year, she started to date. She also taught Sunday school at a local Lutheran church. The pastor of the church at the time remembered her as a sweet girl who enjoyed working with the younger children at the church. But everything changed for Ruth when she started talking to a 33-year-old ex-con named Don Spat, who also was known as Don Robbins. He was interviewed in the same article in the Gazette from April 1977. The article, he called himself Ruth's old man. However, the police viewed him as something much more than that. In the article, Don claimed he was not a pimp. All he did was take money from Ruth and another girl named Lucy. He claimed the girls would just walk up to him and hand him money, and he would take it and stick it in his pocket. He said that any man would take that kind of money, and he'd be a fool not to. Ruth lived with Don and his mother in the Heights, and he claims that they had talked about getting married. The other girl, Lucy, she was also a prostitute, and her and Ruth were close friends. Lucy said that Ruth never used drugs because of her diabetes. Lucy described Ruth as a good person, but also noted that Ruth had always thought she would die on the streets, and she knew that she was going to get killed one day. Lucy would tell Ruth that she was talking crazy and urge her to stop talking like that. It was at Ruth's funeral that her parents met Don for the first time. Ruth's mom blamed Don for what happened to Ruth, stating that she had no idea Ruth was working the streets. Lucy confirmed that and said that Ruth never wanted her parents to find out what she was doing. And Don always avoided meeting them. Instead, he would drop Ruth off at their house whenever she went over there for dinner, and he would go to a bar and drink. The county attorney at the time, Harold Hanser, said that changing moral values have blurred the lines between love and promiscuity for thousands of teenagers. He predicted that we would see more and more problems in Yellowstone County as fewer people think there's anything wrong with it. He also stated that what happened to Ruth exemplifies the issue with the idea of sex workers being a victimless crime. A police detective who had arrested Ruth at a local motel in 1976 described her as a decent person who was polite and did not give the police any trouble. And she didn't swear. He thought she was a good person. However, due to her shyness and diabetes, she couldn't bring herself to appear in court. So she gave a bail bondsman $300 in cash to take to the court and pay the fine for her. Ruth's brother Dean was questioned about the homicide of his sister. Dean, who had been in trouble before for sexual assault of a young boy, gave contradictory stories to detectives. Then, in March 1977, Dean was interviewed by a psychiatrist while under the influence of sodium amidol. Sodium amidol is a barbiturate medication that acts as a central nervous system depressant. Back in 1977, it was primarily used as a sedative and has also had a hypnotic effect. In medical settings, sodium metadol may be prescribed for the treatment of insomnia, anxiety, and certain types of seizures. But law enforcement back in those days, it was sometimes used as truth serum, although its reliability for that purpose was highly debated. Barbiturates like sodium amidol can be highly addictive, and the potential for abuse leads to serious side effects. Because of these risks, their use has declined in favor of safer alternatives, and law enforcement has totally stopped using it. Court records show that Dean told the doctor that he killed his sister with a .22 rifle. Sheriff detectives searched Dean's car, trying to locate any evidence such as the .22 caliber weapon, ammo, or even any spent shell casings. However, they only found a Coca-Cola can and an empty cigarette package. The drug-influenced confession has since been discounted by the detectives who felt that there was no evidence to support it, and Dean himself retracted the statement. Others were questioned, but no new leads were ever found. The detectives believe a suspect either wanted to control Ruth or was pretending to be her friend when he killed her. Whoever it was that picked her up held a gun to her face and pulled the trigger again and again. Ruth died instantly. She was found fully clothed with no sign of sexual assault. Ruth's case remains unsolved to this day, and it serves as a reminder of the countless families who are still waiting for justice for their loved ones. Let's take a trip out to Ruth's final resting place. Now we are out here at Sunset Memorial Cemetery at the final resting place of Ruth Ballou. We want to take a moment and honor her memory and pay our respects. It says September 19th, 1955 for the date of birth, and she was murdered on February 5th, 1977. Way too young. Ruth Laurie Ballou. Her brother is right over here. Dean. Always loved, never forgotten. October 3rd, 1954. May 23rd, 2018. You know, while we stand here at Ruth's grave, it's essential to reflect on the broader issue of cold cases and the impact they have on the communities. Cold cases not only leave the families in limbo, but they also create a sense of unease and fear within the community. According to statistics, there are thousands of unsolved cold cases across the United States. Looking into the stats of homicides from 1965 to 2023, Montana alone had 1,473 homicides, with a 67% clearance rate, which leaves 485 unsolved cold case homicides statewide. It's crucial that we work together as a community to provide closure for these families and ensure justice is served. We need to do it for the victims' families. They deserve answers of what happened, who did this to their loved one. If you have any information, please reach out to the Yellowstone County Sheriff's Office. They can be reached at 406-256-2929. All right, well, this wraps up here at the cemetery. I'll catch you back at the studio. Welcome back to the studio. Cold cases like Ruth are not just about one individual or family. They reflect the systematic challenges in the justice system. These cases impact an entire communities and foster fear and mistrust. By raising awareness and supporting law enforcement, we can help bring closure to the families and restore faith in the justice system. If you have any information related to Ruth's case or any other cold cases, please reach out to the Yellowstone County Sheriff's Office or your local law enforcement agency, or organizations dedicated to solving cold cases. Your information could be the missing piece that brings closure to a grieving family. You can reach out to the Yellowstone County Sheriff's Office at 406-256-2929. Together, we can make a difference and ensure that no victim is forgotten. As we wrap up today's episode, I want to take a moment to address something incredibly important. If you or someone you know is in trouble or may be a victim of human trafficking, please don't hesitate to reach out for help. You can call the National Human Trafficking Hotline at 1-888-373-7888. They're available 24/7 to provide support and resources. Remember, you are not alone, and there is help out there. Human trafficking is a serious issue that affects millions globally, involving the exploitation of individuals through force, fraud, or coercion for the purposes like forced labor and sexual exploitation. Victims often come from vulnerable situations, including those living in poverty or those who have faced violence or abuse. Raising the awareness and educating ourselves about human trafficking is essential in the fight against it. By sharing information and supporting organizations that combat trafficking, we can all contribute to making a difference. I want to thank you for joining us today, and let's continue to shine a light on those important issues together. And as always, stay safe, stay curious, and we'll uncover more mysteries together. Until next time.